one drop, of congealed, or like Donald Marshall says, agitated blood makes a clone of you. Think twice. Think twice about it. Think twice about it. Now, many of you have been deceived into going and donating blood, thinking that you're doing it for one reason and finding out later you're doing it for a completely different reason. As I covered in my video yesterday, this is their agreement. They had refused to provide this agreement with me. I told them I was going to bring the cops back with me. When I showed up, I don't know, 4 days later, it was boom right there. And I said, what about the other agreement? They're like, well, that's digital. You can't get a copy of that because that's digital. I said, that's not right. It's not very transparent, and it's not right. I want to read that one before I donate any blood, period. And, again, I showed them my shirt and told them I'd be back. And they wanted to send me over to the main office because they've got, higher up retards that might have, a new answer for me. But the bottom line is they're making clones out of your blood, people. And guess what? They've been able to do that to you men from your, literally foreskin when you were born. Do you understand? 8 days after you're, and the God that has the agreement with you to protect you is doing all this using Satan's minions. I'm talking about the mafia doctors who are giving you terrible medicine, performing operations on you which you should never have to have if you were healing yourself with the resources that are here on the earth plane that have been put here for that purpose. I wouldn't trust the God of the Old Testament with not one hair on my ass, okay? I'm just telling you, what a stinking, lying, stealing, thieving retard that God is, okay? So hopefully I'll have some information that you can benefit from. All of this is designed to keep you from worshiping false gods and to basically not get yourself deceived. I'm doing this because I realize the more and more that I look at this, how deep this rabbit hole goes. It's so deep it's not even funny. Okay, so I'm going to start real quick with, I'm just going to cover this and then I'm going to start reading. So I talked to my Russians a couple of days ago. Gosh, I guess it was Friday, might have been Monday. But I asked them what they thought about Tucker Carlson's interview, and of course they told me that it was a farce because Tucker Carlson, apparently had an itch inside of his shoe, and so he went and scratched it. So the entire country of Russia is up in arms because Tucker Carlson has no respect for Putin and didn't follow any protocol. Now, that's my Russians telling me how all the Russians feel. And so I'm thinking to myself one thing, and then just, being careful not to say what I'm thinking, but that's an entire country of retards. If that's all they're concerned about. And it goes more to my point that these people are only interested in themselves. They have none, zero compassion for a person who might, to be a whistleblower, who might put his life on the line to save them, potentially. That's what I call retarded, okay? I rest my case. If all you Russians are pissed off at me, lump it, okay? Because you need to grow up. You need to grow up. Anyway, maybe they're not concerned because Putin regularly takes them on trips into the underground cities they're going to live in for a while. Possibly for a very long time. In between his visits to the Domes of Canada to meet with the royal families of Great Britain, where he offered Donald Marshall, according to Donald Marshall, I have no way of proving this, but I have no reason to disbelieve Donald. I don't necessarily think Donnie is right about everything, but I think he tries to be, and I think he is a whistleblower. Now, that's a person that I can respect. A whistleblower. Yeah, I'm good with that. If we had more whistleblowers actually present themselves, we might be able to save more people. Because I'm pretty sure the whistleblowers are going to be saved. That's what you call people, no matter what country you're from. That's what you call repentant. Okay? And there's a lot of people coming forward showing themselves as repentant. Russians, you need to grow up. Okay? You need to grow up. Anyway, it is what it is. I can't be concerned about all of you because there's just too many of you. There's too many retarded people in the world. I can't do nothing about it. And I sat there and I listened while my Russian friend, drank vodka the entire night, and I had to listen to how retarded Americans were because they believe anything their government tells them. Hello! We must all follow protocol. You can't be scratching an itch while you're interviewing Putin, who must be a king. He must be because the Russians think he is. Anyway, he's the king. He's one of the kings of the dumbs. He's the king of dumbs. You get it? And look, don't take my word for it. Don't shoot the messenger. Just wait. Just wait. You're already being taken downstairs. One of these days, you're going to go there for good. That's going to be the end of it. Which would be great. That'll make more room for all of the meek. They're going to be up here on top. Anyway, so much for that. So I wanted to talk about Uther Pendragon. We were talking about the dragon in the last video being connected to the Eastern people. Biblically, not so. But in all of your Sumerian texts and otherwise, they're referred to as the blackheads. Now, you could make a case for, no, they're talking about black people. And you could do that because technically, you know, Chinese are white. With the black hair. Okay? So technically you could do that. But the bottom line is that entire race of people, whatever you want to call them, define themselves as the dragon. So now let's go to Uther Pendragon. So what is the name Pendragon? It means top or head dragon. What did Uther Pendragon do? He becomes king and orders the construction of 2 golden dragons, one of which he uses as his standard. Can you guess which one that might be? The one that is the Welsh, the dragon in Wales. You're going to learn who the Welsh people are in this. That's one of the things you're going to get out of this video. Let's continue. Says Uther is the warlord. In the Warlord Chronicles, Uther is the king of Dumonia, as well as the High King of Britain. In these novels, Arthur is his illegitimate son. So Arthur is Uther's illegitimate son. Now, I want to go back, just back up a little bit. This is Uther now. He secures Britain's frontiers from quails of Saxon uprisings with the aids of his retainers, one of whom is Glorious, the Duke of Cornwall. Now, you know, the Welsh didn't especially like the Saxons coming in. That we shouldn't even say Welsh. We should identify them differently. And we're going to do that if you just continue to stick with me here. Why is Arthur called Pendragon? It says Pendragon, Pendrag, literally means head dragon in medieval or modern Welsh. It was a description often applied to the leaders of a group of tribes and was the epithet of Uther, who was possibly the king of Dumonia, a sub-kingdom of the Roman Britain. Was Uther Pendragon a bad king? Uther was portrayed as an overconfident, manipulative, iron-fisted, egocentric, arrogant king who showed no mercy on those who showed any sign of defiance of his laws. There you go. We could equate him with a Stalin, a Hitler, or a Napoleon. There you go. Says, who betrayed Uther Pendragon? Young Arthur is taken from his father, Uther Pendragon, and brought to the 20th century for protection against the evil Morgana. This may be actually just a little description of a game. Let me just skip that. Who is the king, the true king of Camelot? Camelot was ruled by King Arthur until his death, upon which the Council of Advisors took over Camelot until Uther's son Tedros came of age. And there are many stories. Some of them are going to be true. Some of them are not going to be true, but they won't ever tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt that these people lived and that these stories are true. But there's an awful lot of scholars who do believe that this is based on truth. Camelot was ruled by King Arthur until his death, upon which the Council of Advisors took over. Where is Camelot today? Camelot in Arthurian legend, the seat of King Arthur's court, it is variously identified with Corellian, Monmouthshire in Wales, and in England with the following: Queen Gamel, Somerset, the little town of Camelford, Cornwall, Winchester, Hampshire, and Cadbury Castle, South Cadbury, Somerset. So it's Welsh. It's a Welsh story. It's probably pre-Roman. Okay. Did Uther Pendragon really exist? Pay attention. Legendary English ruler, and according to the medieval historian, this is one from history, Geoffrey of Monmouth, the father of Arthur. There is no proof that Uther Pendragon really existed, though scholars believe that he may have lived sometime during the mid-400s to the early 500s. So that is double speak if I ever heard it. He didn't exist. He does exist. Scholars think. Did Camelot ever exist? Although most scholars regard it as being entirely fictional. See what I mean? This is what you're going to get on the internet about it. There are many locations that have been linked to King Arthur's Camelot. Camelot was the name of the place where King Arthur held court and was the location of the famous Round Table. Is King Arthur British or Celtic? They're Celtic. Okay? They're pre-British. They're the redheads that were there first. They're not indigenous to that area either, but we're going to find out. We're going to get to the bottom of where they came from. Just hang tight with me. King Arthur, PBS, the Arthur, a Celtic born of deceit and adultery, grew to become one of the most famous rulers of Britain. He was a warrior, a knight, and a king who killed giants, witches, and monsters, and led a band of heroes on many daring adventures. In other words, even though he's a Pendragon, he's also a dragon slayer. You get it? See how they do it? Now let's go to Genesis 49. We're going to go to Genesis 49:16. Listen. From the house of Dan there is to arise a man who will judge his people, and with the judgment of truth all the tribes of Israel will hearken to him together. A chosen man shall arise from the house of Dan, like the basilith which lieth at the dividing of the way, the serpent's head which lurketh by the way, that biteth the horse in his heel. This is describing what? The sea-goat. The horse, after comes Sagittarius, comes the sea-goat. Now, they've changed this symbol in the so-called constellations that the sun goes through. So instead of it being Capricorn, you know, the hundreds, thousands of years ago, it was considered a sea-goat, which is interesting. What is a sea-goat? And the master from his terror is thrown backwards. Even thus will Shimshon, this is talking about Samson, Bar Manavak, slay all the heroes of Philistia, the horsemen and the foot. he will hamstring their horses and hurl their riders backwards. So you see, they're referring to Samson as a Dan that is a serpent by the way. And you understand? He's a dragon. This is where he gets his power from. Now, we're going to talk about this. We're going to skip out of the Bible now, and we're going to talk about pagan worship. So all of this is, some of it is in the Bible, but it's, most people, their ministers are not going to pinpoint this for them. Because if they do, you may figure out some things. So I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to pinpoint this for you. But just know that the wolves in sheep's clothing will never do this. But it doesn't matter. Because you will never, ever meet one of them that is willing to follow the first commandment in the Bible, which is Genesis 1:29. And that's the provision of food, which only because of Enki's upgrade on mankind changed this world that we live in. Prior to the arrival of the Anunnaki, we didn't have this problem. People understood natural law. That's what we live by here. We were happy to do so. And Enki, in his own words, describes the hominid man that they found in the Absu, in other words, in Africa, wherever they found him. It could have been in the Americas. But the bottom line is they found him jostling with the gazelles, not for food. He was playing with them. And in the waters of the rivers, playing with the teeming schools of fish. Not to eat them, but playing with them, because that was the relationship that we had with the animals. Through the hominids, not through the Anunnaki upgrade. Do you understand? You cannot get any of this if you can't understand that. Now, all of us, to a degree, are blended with hominid genes and blood. Actually, the blood is the hominid. Some of the blood is hominid, and some of the genes, but they're mixed in. So let's go to Dagon. Dagon was the god within Mesopotamian pantheon of over 1,000 deities. He was worshipped as the creator god, the chief deity, and the lord of the land in ancient Syria and the coastal regions near the Euphrates River, where he was later depicted as half man, half fish. That'd be Aquarius, wouldn't it? Yeah. Who's the Lord of the Sea? Enki. So let's continue. According to the Hebrew Bible, Dagon, now look at the name, how they're spelling it now. So it's Dagon or it's Dagon. But either way, if you take the G out of it, you get the word Dan. Yeah. There you go. There you go. I've solved the mystery for you. There you go. So the tribe of Dan are the Dagans. Says also the national god of the Philistines, with temples at Ashdod and Gaza, but there is no extra biblical evidence confirming this. The extrasolar object designated Formula Hot B is named after Dagon. Is Dagon a demon? Dagon, pronounced Dagon. Now they're putting a Y in it. Was a primordial and obirint and a demon lord, the lord of the darkness depths, layered in the shadow sea, the 89th layer of the abyss. Now, the abyss is always talking about the abyss of the sea. When Enoch says the second heaven, he's always talking about the abyss of the sea. That's another dimension here. You might as well say that it is a different dimension than we live in, because it's the dimension of the water. Do you understand? So that might give you a little more understanding of dimensions. There's the earth dimension, which is under. There is the air or ether dimension, which is above. And then there's the water dimension. You see what I'm talking about? Let's continue. It says, what is the symbol of the god Dagon? Dagon was represented both grain, by both grain. Remember I told you in a couple of videos ago, do not eat grain. Grain is their food. They will poison it because they don't. If you eat their food, they're going to give you the antidote for it when you join their group. Otherwise, you're not going to get the antidote for gluten. It's like putting glue in your body. Now, you're told that gluten is your problem. No, glyphosates are your problem. Gluten is just one of the symptoms that you are eating grain. You need to get rid of the grain. You can literally feel the grain coming out of your face, the gluten coming out of your face after you put soap on it. Put the soap on your face, let it sit there for a minute, go ahead and rinse it off, and then peel the skin back off of your face. And notice that it has a gluey texture. You're going to feel that all over your body too. At some point, it's coming out of your pores. You're going to have to deal with it. It says, represented by both grain and fish, symbols of fertility and multiplying, often depicted with the torso of a man and the tail of a fish. He may very well be the first merman, predating even merfolk, which are mermaids and mermen of Greek mythological legends. Well, these are not legends, people. If Enki can blend you with a hominid and make a slave out of you, don't you think that he can do that out of dolphins and porpoises? There you go, alien grace. One problem is that they can't procreate because they don't have no pee-pees. So they have to be clone made. And anyone that thinks cloning is a new thing, and Donald says it's been going on since the 50s. Not true. It never stopped since they got here. So however long you think they've been here, whether you think it's 200 million years or you think it's 8,000 or 10,000 years, just know that they've been doing this since the beginning. And they actually had a name for it. They had a name for it called Lulu. And I'm pretty certain the Golem is just another version of that. Like in the, Lord of the Rings. Okay. Who is the Babylonian god Dagon, or Dagon, as spelled in some historical writings? Was originally a Babylonian fertility god who evolved into a major northwest Semitic god, it's little g, reportedly of fish and or of fishing as a symbol of multiplying. He was worshipped by the early Ammonites, founders of the city of Babylon. So, who are the Amorites? Not to be confused with the Ammonites. Amorites. all of these people that are being described are going to absolutely, back in this day, be connected with Canaanites. Who are the Canaanites? Today they can be in any race. I could tell you right now that they're white people, okay? But it wouldn't matter because today we're all blended. They're in every race. These are the vampires and the werewolves of mythology because they had a taste for blood, people. They were blended with cats and dogs. You get what I'm saying? Easily connected to the Neanderthal from Europe and right around the Caucasus areas. Okay, let's continue. It says, what does Dagon mean in Hebrew? It means small fish. However, the fact that the Hebrew word dag means small fish led to the tradition that Dagon was the fish god, as this is consistent with his worship by the so-called sea peoples. Now, who are the sea peoples? Traditionally, we know the sea peoples are related to the Phoenicians, okay, also referred to as the tribe of Dan. We're going to go into that later some more. Why is Dan not listed in the Bible as one of the 144,000? In other words, the 12,000, there is no 12,000 from Dan. Think about it. Where are all these Freemasons coming from? Scotland, Ireland, Wales? Think about it. Archaeological finds of representations of such a deity, though not overtly identified as Dagon, intended to confirm this hypothesis. Does Dagon have a son? Ooh, 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 ooh. Pay attention. Does Dagon have a son? Remember, the sons carry on. They get the birthright, they get the blessing, they get the name, they get all of it. And this is why you will never be dealing with one personage. You'll be dealing with an entire family of these retards who want to be worshipped as gods, but really they're no more than bully men that have laid up riches. They might be able to tell you what to do because you work for them. That's all. It says, who destroyed the temple of Dagon in the Bible? Samson did. Let's hear what Samson did. It says, when the Philistines take Samson into their temple of Dagon, Samson asked the rest to rest against one of the support pillars. After being granted permission, he prays to God and miraculously recovers his strength, allowing him to bring down the columns, collapsing the temple, and killing both himself and the Philistines. Remember, we read about Dan earlier, and Shimshon bar Manovac, who is Samson, who was a serpent by the way. So he's taken out his own people. Samson would be known as today I'm sorry, the word is leaving me now, but it's, you know, what I was saying earlier about people coming forward and telling the truth. See, it doesn't matter what your blood type is. If you're going to lay your life on the line, whether true or not, as it appears Tucker Carlson did. Do you see what I'm saying? That's repentance, people. That's repentance. And Samson showed repentance of, and he did some evil things, but he showed repentance in the end. But basically, when you think of it, really just killing a bunch of people who probably deserve killing because they've earned it. Therefore, somebody in this realm who is human must, unalive them. Keeping in mind that these Pharisees that paid Simon to turn on the Jesus character in the Bible was paid with silver, or I don't know, gold or silver. I'm not quite sure what it was. But I do know that there is a lot of info out there that he was paid with Dagons. That was one of the monies going around at that time. The Dagons. Okay. So, who are the Philistines today? Ooh, let's look at that. There are currently no living people who are ethnically Philistine. Do you believe that? Don't believe it. You shouldn't believe it. The term Philistine has some negative connotation. Notice that stein at the end. Think about it. As it has since come to refer to someone as a materialistic individual who has no respect for culture, reason, or art. That's a lovely story. The truth is the Philistines were the Greeks, okay? They were an offshoot of the Greeks. Let's learn about that. It says, who are the 5 gods of the Philistines? The gods and goddesses of the Philistines include Baal, Astarte, Ashtoreth, Dagon. The names and characteristics of these deities are also elements of the Canaanite religion. The archaeology material has uncovered common goddesses, figures seated on chairs, which again was the Aegean element in goddess worship. So they were willing to allow their wives and women to sit on thrones with them. Did you ever see the Anunnaki rock opera? Hardly ever did you see one sitting on a throne that their ladies weren't sitting with them. Think about it. You can go back and watch it. I put it on the last video. I'll put it on this one too. I hope you'll watch it. So what God, little g, did the people of Nineveh worship? The city was said to be devoted to the goddess Inanna of Nineveh. And Nina was one of the Sumerian and Assyrian names for that goddess. So this is where it gets confusing. They're going to have a lot of names. But if you go back to their Sumerian names, it's all of them, including Anu, Enlil, and his side of the family. It's all of them. Understand, they all had a franchise, which was basically their brand. Do you understand? Their corporation and who they could get to follow. their Facebook. Do you understand? Their X, their Instagram, FBI, Facebook, Instagram. Do you get it? Hug. Anyway, who was Baal in the Bible? As such, Baal designated the universal god of fertility. And in that capacity, his title was Prince, Lord of the Earth. Where is Satan's throne? It's at Pergamum, right? It's right there in Geneva. Somebody, I said Geneva, I can't remember what I said, but it's right there where CERN is. Wherever that is, Geneva, Switzerland, Sweden, Switzerland, I can't remember. I just don't know that part of the country that great. But anyway, look it up. Where, the faithful servant from the church of Pergamum, or whichever church it is, I don't have it in front of me at the moment, basically was martyred. You look it up. He was also called the Lord of Rain and Dew, the two forms of moisture that were indispensable for fertile soil in Canaan. You understand, water is life. This is why even today, the angels have always been in charge of the rain here and the weather patterns. Now we got this nasty thing called HARP that they're going to use it as a weapon. Look what they've done to California, and they did all that just by putting too much silver iodide in the air. That's all it took for them to ruin California with all that mud. Silver iodide is how they did it. Look it up. Who is the father of Baal? Baal, and I want you to notice this word. Basically, you can say Baal, and they like to say Baal. They will use the word bell as in ringing bell, because they used sounds in churches, because they knew how to do that. But we just had a Super Bowl, and every time we have a Super Bowl, what do we have that has to go along with it? The pagan halftime show, where people get out there and act like fools for their, God, just like the prophets of Baal did, trying to attract him to come down and light the golden laver, whatever. Elijah's time, right? Was usually said to be the son of Dagon. So Baal is the son of Dagon, but appears as one of the sons of El in the Ugaritic sources. Both Baal and El were associated with the bull in Ugaritic texts, as it symbolized both strength and fertility. And of course, all of that is connected to Taurus. And remember the golden bull that they were worshiping when Moses came down? Many times we are told that that is in Enlil, but it's more probably accurately Anu. Okay? So you see, if you put, Anu there, it doesn't make sense. But they always fought over their, this is why today we have copyright, because they would fight over their symbols, where one of them said, I think I should be representative of a bull. No, 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 that's mine. I claimed that before. Well, there's no contractual agreement. So now they got to come up with contracts. Oh, look, we can use these contracts to enslave these poor hominids for an eternity. Ooh, let's do that. Let's stop fighting amongst ourselves and let's figure out how we can make slaves of these poor bastards to the end of time. Okay. It says, who are the false gods of the Old Testament? Pay attention. It says, nevertheless, the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament itself, recognizes the reports that on multiple occasions that the Israelites were not monotheists, but actively engaged in idolatry and worshiped many foreign, non-Jewish gods besides Yahweh, and or instead of him, such as Baal, Astarte, Ashtaroth, Chemosh, Dagon, Molech, and Tammuz. Tammuz was actually Dumuzi, a dead guy. I'm sure they cloned him. That's what they like to do. Because remember, even Enki cannot, his alien grays cannot reproduce. And we're told that in Prometheus, Marduk's face, at the beginning of that Prometheus movie, they can't reproduce. So what do they have left if they can't reproduce? Answer: cloning. That's it. Now, again, I'm going to prove at some point, probably not in the time that I've got left on this video, but I'm going to prove that even dreaming is connected to the fact that you have a clone somewhere else. And with movies like The Shift, we're beginning to understand exactly what they want to do and how they want to control us. So Yahweh, and or instead of him, such as Baal, Astarte, Ashtaroth, Chemosh, Dagon, Molech, and Tammuz, and all of these people are all part of the same Godhead, and that is Zeus. That's just the other name, not the Z version of Zeus's name, though they will use S-U-S to symbolize it, like Jesus. But like Elon Musk's X, xylophone, right? Think about it. There's your Zeus. And in the Hebrew alphabet, that's a Ta. That's the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So, some people say, oh, blood, it's the universal donor. Not no more universal than the A and B. Now, granted, you're going to have the good side of that, and you're going to have the, the nasty side of that, because you're going to have RH negative and RH positive. And at any time, you can lose anything that you have just by making terrible choices. Likewise, you can get on the better side of things, and therefore your blood types will change back and forth. As it says in Revelation when it talks about the candlesticks being moved out of their place. That's what that's referring to. So just so you know, the big thing that we're looking at now, because we keep looking at the One Blood logo and there's an O on there, that, let me see if I can recreate this. It's like this. It's not a complete closed O. It's like a O like this. It has a drip of blood coming out of it. And I told him, I said, is that the One Blood? O? Is that what you're trying to say? See, I've always thought it's going to be RH positive or O, but it's definitely not going to be A or B. and certainly not A or B negative. And if you watch Huxley's, 1984, no, A Brave New World, sorry, A Brave New World, they literally are putting their A's and their B's and their, whatever on, their insignias. They're wearing their blood type on their insignia. You can, I don't know, it may be offered somewhere else, but at one time it was on that paid-for NBC channel called Peacock. And it's worth seeing. I thought it was great. There's also an older version of that, A Brave New World. Everybody should see it. Anyway, it says, what religion were the Philistines? Canaanite. So again, people blended with animals. Now, just so you know, also, this race of people like to make giants. So how do you get a giant? You have an Rh positive blended with an O negative. And today, when we see that happen, we see that it's definitely true. It doesn't matter which one of the Rh positives. It doesn't matter. But with the with the Rh negative, it has to be the O positive, or rather the O negative. So, and you judge for yourself. You know people's blood type. You come back and report to me what you've learned. It says, religion, the Philistines took over the worship of certain Canaanite deities, such as the Israelites often did. In particular, Dagon, a god of fertility. Compare Hebrew Dagon, and then it says corn, which is grain, right? Corn, grain. Now, if we're talking about corn, the actual, corn stalks, that's from the Americas. Now, it has been said many, many times that corn is just a word for grain. Is it? Is it really? Or is it a word for maize? That brings up a whole nother subject, which we'll save for another video. It says, often, in particular, Dagon, a god of fertility, is singled out for special mention with temples at Gaza, Ashdod. And see, always these words ash are because they like to burn things that got them high. Okay? Whether it be marijuana in the Americas, or whether it was acacia, in the Middle East, whatever, Africa, whatever. They like to burn things that got everybody high because they were really shamans, people, who were traveling in the dream world, do you understand? Where they were getting, their so-called information and protection, of which I'm not interested in. They could say anything they wanted, but Elijah, this is, does Baal worship still exist today? Now listen, this is what they say. It says they say anything they wanted. They could say anything they wanted, but Elijah killed every last one of the prophets of Baal. That should have put an end to Baal worship. Really? I mean, really? We're talking about a race of people. We're not talking about priests. We're talking about a race of people. Now, just for the record, which group of priests are we talking about? We're talking about the Druids. We're talking about the Pendragons. Do you understand? Unfortunately, Baal worship continued, and surprisingly, it continues even now. What is the Delilah syndrome? promiscuity in women motivated by a desire to render men weak and helpless, named after the Philistine mistress of Samson, who deprived him of his strength by cutting off of his hair. From Delilah Syndrome in a Dictionary of Psychology. Even if she loved him, she didn't love him unless she could control him. That's really what we're talking about. That's what they're trying to describe to you. How many gods are listed in the Bible? Let's look. It says the Bible emphatically declares that there is one and only one. Now, wait a minute. Do you think that that's Anu? Do you think that that's Yahweh? Yahweh is a name the Anunnaki use. There's no question in my mind about it. So what is the true one God? What is the true one God? And how does he manifest himself into this world today? Bible tells us that on the first day, sun and the moon. Moon is diminished because she makes an accusation. Therefore, we are to understand that the sun is the correct deity, and that we are to not worship so much the sun as the light from the sun, because that is the nature of our God. So we worship the light, not the sun necessarily, but the light. The sun is just what presents itself to us in this world. Now, some of you will say to me, you're a pagan, because that's what pagans think. Well, let me tell you something. Atlantis used to be solar worshipers. When they started worshiping themselves and their systems, they sunk into the sea. Now, you can find that out if you read the right books. But even the movies, Aquaman, are trying to tell you that. It'll just be up to you as to whether or not you can catch it. You see, because they don't often put these things out right there, smacking you upside the head, saying, look at this, look at this, look at this. That's not how it works. So what race were the Canaanites? Ooh, we're getting somewhere now. It says the research also determined that the Canaanites, who frequently appeared in ancient sources, including the Bible, descended from a mixture of earlier Levantine populations and immigrants or migrants coming from the Caucasus region of modern-day Iran. But look, even at that time, they're mixing. I'm not saying all white people are bad, though there are many. All you got to do is open your ears and ask yourself, did I just hear that? You've got to be kidding me. Did I just hear that? People, you don't even know how stupid you sound. You have no clue. You have no clue. But you could wise up. See, you get gifts when you begin to eat the right things. I'm supposed to be an example to you for that. Some of you are going to be able to do what I do easily. You don't need me to make shirts for you. You've got a lot of ideas about the truth now. And I can tell that by some of the posts that you make. Why did God hate the Moabites? Now, which God hated the Moabites? Was it the sun or was it Anu? See, this is what you always have to ask yourself. In the book of Numbers, God condemns the Moabites for their worship of false gods and sexual immortality. God also chastises the Israelites for intermarrying with Moabite women. On some occasions, the Moabites convinced certain Israelites to worship and make sacrifice to Moabites. You shouldn't sacrifice nothing, okay? Your sacrifice is your time that you sit and contemplate. It's not easy in this world, as busy as they try to keep us to do that, but that's your sacrifice. What race are Philistines? Most scholars agree that the Philistines were Greek origin and that they came from Crete and the rest of the Aegean islands, more generally from the area of modern-day Greece. See, they knew to be around water. It's just that simple. They were looking for water. They knew. And for the record, why did they know? Did you get it? You get how they knew? They didn't come from space. They came from the water outside the ice walls. Why did they call Jesus Beelzebub? Now this is interesting. This is according to the Christian Bible in Mark 3:22. The scribes accused Jesus of driving out demons by the power of Beelzebub, the prince of demons. Now think about this for a second. That's the accusation in the Bible. So why doesn't he just use the name Jesus? Does that not drive out demons? Use the gifts you've been given. I cannot do all this work for you. You're going to have to figure some things out. So, who's the prince of demons? Now, they've got a name for him in the Bible. Baal. Who are all these lords that we call gods that are Anunnaki, right? And this particular one is the prince of demons. He's the prince of all the demons. Probably Marduk. The name also appears in the expanded versions in Matthew 12, 24 through 27, Luke 11, 15, 18 through 19, as well as Matthew 10, 25. Go look those up. But my point is, they could have easily, to send the demons fleeing, they only have to use the word Jesus. It's the same exact synonym as Beelzebub. Do you understand? What's the name of the son? See, no one really knows. I mean, there's a few people that think they know, okay? But if you're not giving yourself over to demons, you don't have to worry about knowing their names. And that's what the Son wants you to know. It wants you to know to stop with the names. You don't need his name. What religion worships Molech? Jehovah's Witnesses understand Molech as a god of worship of the state. Okay, now that's interesting because that's exactly what the Atlanteans did. They started worshiping a god of the state. In other words, their system. In other words, remember the name of my last video, or 2 videos ago, that we got from the Geneva Bible? Where the Geneva Bible let the cat out of the bag, right? So much so that King James had to literally rewrite the English language. So you couldn't know. And then this way, when you go to read the Geneva Bible, even today, You're reading Old English. You don't know what Old English means. You'd have to get a separate book of Old English to translate, which they've already corrupted. You're never going to know. All you need to know is what's written in the Geneva Bible, if you can understand it, if you can find it written in plain English. And that is that it is the rulers of earthly darkness that are your enemy. And that's why King James literally said, holy crap, we got to do something quick. So they did a lot of things. They changed a lot of translations, dropped some on the floor. Absolutely. Count on it. So, this is, wait just a second. Oh yeah, so let me continue. Following, it says, what religion worship Molech? And again, I said the Jehovah's Witnesses understand Molech as the god of worship of the state. Following ideas first expressed by Scottish minister Alexander Hislop. Now, Alexander Hislop, being a Scottish minister, was also the one that wrote the book about the two Babylons. The two Babylons, who literally identified a lot of these people by their names. He was a whistleblower, people. He was a whistleblower. I don't know what happened to him, but I can tell you right now, he was a great whistleblower. Let's continue. So who is demon Molech in the Bible? Molech, a Canaanite deity associated in biblical sources with the practice of child sacrifice. Interesting. What did the Phoenicians do? They literally sacrificed their firstborn children. Could that be why the tribe of Dan is no longer listed in the 144,000? Or is it something way more sadistic? It could be worse. It could be worse. Because I know a lot of people are trying to make the tribe of Dan into some kind of heroes. Because a lot of us have Irish and Welsh and Scottish bloodlines that we've crossed with. So you don't want to believe that. But Molech was absolutely a god of the area of where Dan was. And Tyre was one of its main cities, and so was Biblios, which is where they got their paper to make the Bible, and why the Bible is called the Bible, because of the name of the town, Biblios, where the parchment came from. And think about their word, pen dragon. Pen is what? The top, the head, but also the pen is mightier than the sword. You better think about that. These were scribal people. Scribal. And they were also linked to Celtics and to Druids. You better be paying attention. Anyway. So does Yahweh mean Jesus? It says Hebrew names for God, and it's saying the capital G, like Elohim, God, still a capital, of many lords, Lord of hosts, God of many, Lord of hosts, or El Shaddai, Almighty God. lend credence to this. But what if we're talking about Anu? Retarded epitaphs that they give themselves so that people will think, oh, this is God. We must, we must have protocol. We can't scratch our ass in his presence. Do you see what I mean? Your ass itches, but you can't scratch it in his presence. Because you got protocol. If that ain't retarded, people, I don't know. I'm going to give up on you, okay? If you can't figure that out. First of all, once we get past this place where we go to natural law, we're all going to be equal. We're all going to be equal. Do you get it? There is going to be no gods. There is going to be no dictators. There's going to be none of that. Because we're all going to have love in our hearts. Why? Because we'll be in the light, not in the dumbs. Where the Russians are going, because they're already practicing going. I got that from my Russian friend. Now, I'm not saying we don't have dumbs here, but no one's taken me downstairs or offered to take me downstairs. I saw Jesse Ventura try to go downstairs and they wouldn't let him. But that don't mean they don't have a place for all you ones who got the golden ticket. You think you got the golden ticket. Like the sheriff I talked to, who thinks that the golden ticket is gold. He's going to find gold under the ground. Good for him. I hope it makes him happy enough he stays downstairs. Because we're going to put a padlock on the door and you're not getting out. And even if you find a way to send the dogs, your dogs are going to be they're going to be very hungry. That's all I'm going to say. They may not go without a meal occasionally, but they're going to be very hungry. You will see. Because we will teach our people natural law. We will teach them. Which is something you did not do. Because you were not a good custodian of this place. Therefore, you must be replaced. So now it's the hominid people's turn. Yeah, that's what's coming. So does Yahweh mean Jesus? Hebrew names, being called Yahweh is not Jesus and is not related to Jesus directly in the Hebrew. Or is he? Let me just tell you, there is Jesus, and then there are all. And when I say all, many. When I say many, I mean many. Many righteous teachers that have lived in this place. And many of them, guess what you did? You killed them because you didn't want to hear what they had to say. Even though they were trying to help you. I'm not talking about Jesus. I'm talking about them. I'm talking about people that do not have a name. They weren't sanctioned by the Romans. Do you understand? They weren't in that corporation called Rome they didn't have the ability to talk about the truth because the Romans, made it into a corporation. Do you see how it works? Sort of like what I do. Sort of like what I do. Because I really do not care what Rome thinks. And yet my own mother, when she heard about my shirt, said, well, you're just a troublemaker. Well, you know what? I'm not the original troublemaker. But I will cause some trouble before this is over. For them. Because of the lies that they have told. Let's continue. It says, what animal represents Bel? It is one of the symbols of God. The myth of Europa, for example, relates Zeus's transformation into a bull. Fifth century BCE salute depicting Europa riding Zeus in bull form. The Zeus bull connection goes even further, however, to one of the most infamous deities in the Bible, Baal, which I equate with Marduk. Marduk is the son of Dagon, the lord of the land. Enki is the lord of the sea. Enlil is the lord of the air. Do you see how it works? Are Bel and Yahweh the same being? In northern sources, the Bel refers to the Phoenician storm deity introduced by the Omerides, likely understood by them to be a form of Yahweh, but a figure rejected by the prophets as foreign. Now, why did the prophets, who are nameless, why did they reject them? Because they were not of Zeus. Do you understand? They were of the sun. There is a blood group here from the sun. Let's just try to understand that. Are Bel and Yahweh the same? No. They are the same. They may not be the same person, but they are the same. You see how that works? Easily Enki was, Yahweh before he had to go down under. Now his son has taken his name. Do you understand? Now, just real quick, I'm going to do this, and then this is going to be the end of my video. But I had a lot more that I wanted to cover. I wanted to cover more about Arthur, but I'm not going to have time to now. But I wanted to. So maybe I'll be able to make another video here soon. But I'm going to cover the sun for you. There's a fellow online, his name is Dollard, Eric P. Dollard, and he's made a video. And this is just some of the words that he has used to describe the sun. He's probably the foremost authority on Tesla, even way more than Trump's boy. I can't remember his name, the X guy. I'm sorry, I've forgotten it, but Hug, the guy that's making Neuralink. Anyway, so Eric Dollard has got some things to say about the sun. I'm going to leave you with this, and then I'm just going to say I'll put a video out here. You can look at what he says. But the bottom line is that my feeling is I'm going to do a little bit of homework on it before I report on it again. And I'll let you know just what I think about what this man is saying. But these are just some of the things that he's saying about the sun. It says the sun is a transformer. It transforms information from another dimension. In other words, it's a gate. It's a door. It's a door. There is no fusion on the sun, claims Dollar. They do not know how the sun works. It's not burning anything. It doesn't have to. It's a converter. The sun is an interdimensional energy converter and transformer. The energy is converted from counter space. Whatever's above the waters of the firmament is where it's coming from. These are clearly sons of the sun. Do you understand? I like this man's mind. It says he says a lot of very interesting things about our sun and earth. The sun is hollow and does not have fusion going on in it. It is only a surface. It only has a surface with flares of fusion. The sun is a transformer. It transforms from some other dimension. The sun doesn't burn anything. It is a converter. You can't see the sun from free space. You can only see material objects from free space. You can't see the sources of lights and stars, light and stars. We only see the sun and stars because of our upper atmosphere, which is getting weaker. And so we don't see the stars so well now. Well, we also have, constant weather modification going on. To an extent now, they're not even bothering to hide it from us. I mean, they've told us what happened in California is silver iodide. What more than likely happened when California was burning had to do with the same lasers they used in Hawaii. All of this I've shared with you in songs like the Gypsy Queen. I'm trying to remember the name of the group, but talking about hurricanes and you got to run. Oh, you got to run, you got to run. And then Deep Purple's new band with David Coverdale fronting the band with Deep Purple, Burn. Okay? I made videos, 12, 15 years ago where I was using videos. But see, they got to where they wouldn't allow me to use copyrighted material to make my videos. So I had to start speaking and showing my face on them, which I did not want to do at the time. But here I am. So anyway, I'm going to put a video on this that it'll say Eric Dollard. I suggest that you take a look at it because I think that you're going to find out that your source of everything good is coming from the sun. Try living without it. Some of you are going to get a chance to learn how to do that. Yep. Unfortunately, that's what you're earning. And you don't seem to be showing any sign of anything different in your future. Sorry for that. tried to get through to you, but I've learned about how stubborn you are. And it hasn't been an easy job, and yet I continue. So it is what it is. Thank you very much. When I come back, I will finish my information on Pendragon. That is going to do it. I am done for the moment. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.